Hello, my name's Andrew, and this week Vivobarefoot released a bunch of new zero-drop boot styles for winter, which is awesome, but also potentially confusing if you're not sure what to look for. So I thought I'd just make a video to talk about the features and just go over the best use case for each one. So let's get into it. The one that I'm most excited about is the Tracker Leather AT. I'm presuming that AT stands for Appalachian Trail. And this seems kind of like an upgraded version of the Tracker FG, which I have and I love. It's one of my favorite barefoot boots. And it's got a lot of coverage, but they've added more coverage for water resistance. This is on the Tracker Winter, which I also have, and it's kind of nice just as an extra layer at the bottom to reinforce the leather. The style looks really cool. I love this kind of like golden green color. This is the Bracken one, and then they also have an obsidian, which yeah, my Vibram V-Trex kind of like look like this with the gum sole and then the black up top. So yeah, they really nailed the styles with this one. But yeah, similar lace setup with the grommets here. They've got the quick release on top and a slanted back, so it's really easy to get your ankle moving in the back of the boot so you don't feel trapped, which is important for a higher cut boot like this. Looks like they've opened it up maybe even a little more, which would be nice. This is a really good boot for winter with the cut. It's not too limiting to the point where it's really high, but it's enough to get you through any kind of snow or slush that you would normally be walking through or hiking through. I think that they've made this a little bit more trail friendly now. They've got the FG2 sole versus the FG1 before, and they've actually upgraded the FG2 to be a little bit wider with the lugs, because the first version of the FG2 was a little bit deeper. This is actually a little more narrow, or a little bit more shallow. So you can see it's 6.5 millimeters, where the old version I think was 7.5. But you can see they've also added some texture to the FG2, the new version of the sole, which I think is great. They've also cut in the middle. I think the original version had this too, but they're kind of like in the back, they're spaced more closely together, which to me is going to make this a really good option for walking on roads, because you've got some more coverage here. Like the FG2, you could sort of feel the lugs, and it was almost like not even a firm ground sole, it was more like a soft ground sole. So I think this is a really good improvement. They've also seemed to make it a little bit closer up front as well, but you do have more space. So if you're going on slush or steeper hills, I think it's still going to provide you some really good traction. There's a lot of detail in here, like these lugs, each lug is like, you know, it's got this cutout here, so it's got that chevron shape going on, which really helps going up hills. And then you've got the texture, and then you've got the split. It's like Vivobarefoot's going crazy with the detail on their soles right now, and I love it. So it'll be interesting to see how this feels. I'm hoping to get one to test and review for you guys pretty soon, but I'll let you know about that. Yeah, in terms of material, it's wild hide leather, and it looks really amazing. But the thing that I really like too is that it's a cotton lining, because sometimes they do like a polyester lining. It's not as breathable, so that to me is a really good upgrade for this boot. So yeah, that's the Tracker Leather AT. And then they have the Tracker Textile AT, which is basically the same thing. It does look, I don't know, it looks like the Tracker Leather is just slightly higher, but they're very similar. I had the original Tracker Textile, and I think if I could only have one, I would want leather. But if you're someone who wants a vegan option, this would definitely be a good one. It's got the same lace setup and the reinforcement that they've added as well, which should help with the waterproofing. Some people said that the original version of the Tracker Textile wasn't as waterproof as they wanted it to be. Mine seemed to be fine. I tend to use the Tracker Textile in like really nasty, muddy conditions where I don't want to get my Tracker leather, you know, like super dirty and have to clean it. But like I said, you know, partially that's just because I own so many barefoot boots, and, you know, I would probably go with the leather if it was me. But I think this one looks really cool as well. Oh, that's wild. That would be really hard to keep clean, but I don't know. I think that the textile material, it does shed, you know, mud and stuff like that a little bit easier than the leather. But interesting choice for Vivobarefoot for the second style there. I'd probably go with the black, honestly. Then yeah, we got the same FG2 upgraded sole here, and overall looks like a cool boot for mountaineering. I think I really like I said, I like that the tread's closer together because I think it's going to be good for casual too. And you want that for a winter boot, you know, because it's kind of annoying if you just have a trail boot and then you have to have another boot for casual. But so moving on, this is the GOI Hiber. This is more of a casual boot. This is kind of like a new style riff on the gobi winterized, which I have. And I really love it. It's super flexible. The sole is very thin, so it's 3.7 millimeters. It does have a little bit of grip. You know, it's not a ton, but it can help on pavement and, you know, wet surfaces and stuff like that, as long as it's not too steep. Like, I wouldn't take these hiking or anything like that, but they're fine for urban use. In terms of style, they look like a puffer jacket for your feet, which is pretty cool. I don't know how the waterproofing will be yet, because this is like a brand new style for Vivobarefoot, so I'm hoping that I can get one of these to test as well. They do have bungee laces, so they should be really easy to slip on and off, which is nice. I do have to tie my gobi winterized, and it's not a huge deal, but it's just something to consider. Got some reinforcement in the back there. The gobi winterized would probably be a little bit more durable on the upper, and if you were to take them onto some light trails, usually a material like this could get snagged on thorns and stuff like that. So this seems like a urban only type style. I love that the guy's wearing a puffer jacket and then he's got the puffer jacket shoes. It's like vibe on vibe on vibe. But yeah, it's a vegan shoe. And yeah, you've got your typical insole from Vivobarefoot, the thermal insole, which is kind of nice. And yeah, it looks like polyester PrimaLoft insulation. So if you are going to go with a synthetic insulation, PrimaLoft is definitely the gold standard. I've had that in jackets, and it works really well. All right, let's move on to the GOI Chelsea. So this is kind of like the GOI winterized, except in a Chelsea style. You've got a nice wide opening here. This is just stretchy material, so it's really easy to slip on. Wonder what the color, light tan. Okay, yeah, it's very gold looking. It reminds me of a lion, you know. Probably look really cool with chinos. But it's got the same sole, a 3.7 millimeter sole, so it's extremely flexible. Has a decent amount of grip. But again, this is kind of like an urban, mostly style. Something to note with both this and the Hiber is that they have synthetic insulation. I think this is also synthetic. Let me just double check to make sure. Lining, yep, polyester. So normally I don't really love synthetic insulations because they're not as breathable as, like, you know, wool, something like that. However, I actually really liked this insulation because you can see that it's super puffy. Let's see if we can, I can't get it. Let's see. There we go. You can see that it almost looks exactly like wool. Like you could fool someone. It doesn't look any different, and because it's so puffy, it actually does a pretty good job of wicking moisture and temperature away from your body if your feet start to heat up. So I was really impressed by it. I liked it. My feet never felt sweaty, especially if I was wearing like an Injinji merino wool toe sock base layer. So this is a good one if you want an urban boot. It's really easy to slip on. You don't want to tie. But the water resistance also very good on my GOI winterized, which this is basically the same thing. The only difference would be if you were getting slush, you know, up to this area. I'm assuming this will be a little bit less waterproof than the leather part, but I'd have to test it and see. And then finally, this is basically the same thing, but in a higher cut style. It seems to be the same thing as the version that they had before, but just in new style color-wise. Ooh, that looks cool. Bark. Yeah, I like that. I like the little bit darker color because it seems like it would go with a lighter colored pant, like chinos. This is pretty similar to what I had, it looks like. It's hard to tell without seeing them in person, but I have the sort of tannish color, and it goes with chinos too, but it's nice to have something dark just to create a little more contrast. Then one last thing I want to note about these two styles, both the Chelsea, probably the Hiber too, is that they have some really good room here. You can see that the outline looks quite wide, and then the laces can be opened up to as pretty much as wide as you want. I mean, I guess if you had super extra wide feet, maybe they wouldn't work for you, but pretty much everyone else, there's a lot of space in there. You can even stack up multiple layers of socks and like a wool felt insole, which is what I usually do. I think the GOI Chelsea, probably would be a little bit more constrictive, not in terms of the shape, but just because there's no laces, you know, to open them up. But it is leather, so it's soft and it's a thin material. So again, I don't think most people should have a problem with that in terms of width. And then the Hiber version I think would be okay as well, because you've got the bungee laces, which should give you a bunch of room. The toe box shape looks good, not too pointy. Let's just take a look at the toe box shape for the trackers. Yeah, again, this looks like quite a lot of room up there. Usually Vivobarefoot, just at the very tip, they have just a little bit of pointiness. So I usually go like a half a size up from what I would normally order. So I'm probably a 10.5, and I always buy Vivo 11s, which is nice because then my toes come to like about here. So that's where most of the boot ends. So I have a nice wide shape here, and there's just a little bit of a tip at the end. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Looks like, I wonder if the shape is any different. I think it's probably the same. Maybe the tracker leather looks a little bit wider to me, but it's hard to tell without holding them up to each other. So yeah, those are the new winter boot styles from Vivobarefoot. But if you'd like to support the channel, you can shop with the referral links down below, browse and filter more products with the shoe finder tool, my website barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about Vivobarefoot boots or about zero drop in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.